Greetings and salutations. It's Reverend Jim and ACIM Talks. It is Monday evening and March 17th, and we have some friends here with us to talk. And if you got the agenda for tonight, you'll see we are on the Unity and A Course in Miracles book. And as a matter of fact, we are about halfway through this book, I'm happy to say. We're starting out tonight on page 71. And it's a brand new chapter, chapter 6. So there are 12 total chapters. So like I was saying, we're about halfway in and making progress, right? And I think we've learned some valuable things. It's been a worthwhile book study, in my opinion. We started out with some deep things and psychological things like mind and theoretical things about God and the nature of God, or whatever you want to call it, and heard what both Unity and A Course in Miracles have to say about those things. But as I look at the title of tonight's chapter, it's called Specialness.
Guilty.
What? Guilty what?
Of specialness.
All right. I didn't even get to that question.
I'm still wanting to be an individual.
Oh, here's Laverne. Here, let's let her in. And we will continue. Here she is. Give her a chance to.
Hello.
Hi, Laverne.
Hi, Laverne.
Hi, Laverne.
Hey, Joan. Hey, Dee. Hey, everybody.
Be able to make it, and we were just getting started. We're in the Unity and ACIM book tonight.
Okay.
We're starting on page 71.
All right.
We are starting chapter 6 on the subject of specialness. So, Laverne, it strikes me that's a subject near and dear to your heart. So I think you, along with everyone else, will get a lot out of it. And plus, as I was saying to the rest of the group, this chapter to me represents kind of a turn from the previous chapters, because it's kind of getting more into the nitty-gritty of and practical aspects of the results of the tiny mad idea. So I think we'll find these more practical discussions about the lengths that the ego will go to give us a reality that is consistent with separation. But don't let me get started. I'm sure the authors can tell a story much better than me. Let's do our reading list and get started. Laverne, I did hear from Kathleen. She can't be here tonight, but we hope to see her again soon.
Okay.
So, Sherilyn is our reader 1, and then Ron, and then D is 3, Joan 4, and Laverne reader 5. If that's all right with everybody, let's just dig right in as usual, okay?
Okay,
Yes.
we'll start with specialness, the author's note. We begin this chapter with a definition of specialness to establish a starting point for what will follow. According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, specialness is not a word. The dictionary does not define NESS as a state or condition, and special as distinguished by some unusual quality.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you
I
read the
missed.
sentence again? The
Yeah,
dictionary.
yes, let me do that.
Yes.
According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, specialness is not a word. The dictionary does define ness as a state or condition and special as distinguished by some unusual quality. For the purposes of our discussion, specialness is a state or condition that is distinguished by some unusual quality. We believe that this chapter will provide a most evident example of the distinction between our everyday means of thinking and our universal reality.
Okay. So
That's
already,
interesting that it's not in the dictionary, specialness.
Yeah.
and yet I could wholly agree with that. Um, ACIM does coin a lot of terms and define them differently. It also makes up its own terms sometimes if it's a derivative or combination of some, like they've done here, that are in our English dictionary.
Yeah, I lost sight of that. I'm so used to the course's terminology that I had no clue it wasn't a word.
Yeah. By the way, another interesting point, the word surrender
Uh-huh.
does not appear in the Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
You know, the online web edition of the course,
Uh-huh.
the president said when they first completed it, they said it was ready and she could test it out. And she said, oh, okay, put in surrender. And it returned 0 on surrender. So
Wow.
interesting.
I remember somewhere reading or hearing that surrender has to do with war, and which is
And
why they
maybe
didn't
that's
use it.
why it
Yeah.
wasn't chosen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, it does end by saying we believe that this chapter will provide a most evident example of the distinction between our everyday means of thinking and our universal reality. And a key word there I thought I should remember is the word everyday. Kind of now we're going to talk about some practical issues as related to this term specialness. You want to read more, Sherilyn, or?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Under the introduction, the concept of specialness is strongly emphasized in A Course in Miracles. Initially, it is addressed in the context of our true reality. We are all equally special, a concept we will examine in more detail in a moment. Later, a large amount of the material is about specialness. A large amount of the material is about specialness in the context of our perception-based state and how to resolve it. A Course in Miracles recognizes the importance of relationships in our awakening. It's not difficult to recognize, excuse me, the extent to which specialness applies within our relationships. My goodness. Our considering specialness and special relationships becomes a means of addressing the nature of our ego-based living. It is the unholy instant defined below that begins the spiral into specialness. It is the holy instant where we align ourselves with the Holy Spirit and correct errant thoughts of unique specialness. Wrong-mindedness becomes right-mindedness. Specialness translates into holiness. Special relationships translate into holy relationships.
You may as well finish that section.
Okay. Unity does not address this concept of specialness directly because the primary focus is on the ways and means of realizing Christ consciousness and oneness. A Course in Miracles' primary focus is on undoing the ego-based belief system in order to realize our Christ consciousness and oneness. And its central means for doing so is our relationships. However, while not referring directly to specialness, there are some commonalities. When appropriate, we will add supporting quotes from Unity writings.
Your thoughts on anything we've read so far? I think and again, this is just an introduction. For me, one of the things I noticed, and they alluded to near the end, let me just start at this second to the last sentence. However, while not referring directly to specialness, there are some commonalities. Do y'all see where I'm reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Then it says, when appropriate, we will add supporting quotes from Unity writings. And one of the things I noticed right away when I looked this over, there are like maybe, I don't know, 7, 8. Well, don't let me get hung up here. There are 9 sections, actually more than that, more like 11 with the summary section. There are a total of 11 sections, and most of them don't have commentary from Unity on this.
So is that word not used in Unity? Is that why? Is that term not terminology?
It's more than that. I get the feeling it's not discussed, whether it's by that term or something similar, that it's not discussed as often. And it seemed to have something to do with their approach, although I'm not clear. In the introduction, page 71, it says the concept of specialness is strongly emphasized in A Course in Miracles.
So does Unity address ego in general?
Yes.
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 Okay. They just don't refer to it as specialness.
I got the feeling the goal in Unity is more to transition from a personal ego to a spiritual ego.
Okay.
Right.
A Course in Miracles talks a lot about the ego as an error to be undone as the way to awaken.
Okay, that's a very big difference. Yeah, I forgot about them using the word spiritual ego. Yeah.
And they said something alluding to that. Here on page 72, the first full paragraph. Unity does not address this concept of specialness directly because the primary focus is on the ways and means of realizing Christ consciousness. A Course in Miracles' primary focus is on undoing the ego belief system in order to realize Christ's consciousness.
So just remind me, is Christ consciousness what they call the spiritual ego in Unity in this
Yes.
book?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And we've got the expert here from Unity. We are so pleased so she can keep us on the straight and narrow here. So don't be surprised as we go through this that you'll see a Course in Miracles, but you may not see any unity statements. Anything else? We good?
We're good.
Sure.
So you said Unity does address ego, but not particularly as the means of undoing it to reach that spiritual
Well, let's just say this.
Ego.
I
mean, it's the spirit
now with certainty is there isn't as much discussion in Unity.
Okay.
Yes, but right.
Go ahead, dear. You were saying.
No, I was just going to say specialness and unity is usually referring to the divine within you. That Christ consciousness is the divine that is within you. And that is usually how unity talks about specialness.
Okay.
That getting back to that Christ consciousness, getting back to that divine. But it doesn't actually go into it like the Course
so it doesn't have this negative connotation to it.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I would agree with that as a premise that we can kind of safely go forward. If you see it's not living up to that, bring it up. But I think we've got enough to get started. I'm looking at faces and I think you'll make it through. We good?
It's even in unity to talk about the Christ as really specialness, the Christ becoming the Christ, going from Jesus, the historical man, and developing that consciousness and that evolution of becoming the Christ was kind of
pretty
specialness.
Big. I mean, none of the other species seem to have that to aspire to. So on an evolutionary scale, what the human species represents is special in itself. We're like the flower so far of evolution. Okay, so that's pretty special, right?
Correct.
Well, the Course goes into this trap of our definition of specialness. The Course looks at our definition of specialness is of unusual quality due to separation. Okay.
Well, it equates it to the ego, not to the spiritual ego.
These are the higher up, better quality, and these are lower, and these are in between. So if I'm in the higher up group, I'm special. If I'm in the lowest group, I'm also special. And living that as a premise is problematic, whether it's special high or special low. It's an ego trick because there should be no satisfaction in that type of specialness.
Yeah.
It's the wrong definition of special.
Keyword, that type. Those are keywords, that type of specialness.
Right.
Because
so there is a specialness in inclusion, like to be a part of the greatest flower of evolutionary history. But please don't think you're different as an individual. Your glory comes only with the glory of this whole. And that's
Right.
the truth of it. But
Right.
we get
Oh,
tripped up in the other definition, and the course spends a lot of time talking about that.
right.
Good
Yeah,
enough?
so it's really two opposite definitions for the word.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, totally. Yeah. So you can't even begin to equate the word. They're not used the same way.
Unity uses the word, but it uses in the sense of what we as a whole are, not what individuals are. It doesn't go into that
Right.
type of thing, but the course talks
Yeah.
about these traps as part of freeing ourselves from egoic thinking.
Yeah.
How are we doing now?
Specialness and unity in terms of being connected and united with God, again, with that Christ consciousness. And we always tell that story both in the Course of Miracles and Unity of the prodigal son about the separation. Well, the specialness, was the Father, God, when he left home and left all and came back and became whole again. That was special. He came back to his father when we come. And so with, it in unity is kind of like it talks about the separation rather than specialness, where in the course we're talking about separation and specialness, but it's all done in a different type.
So
The word that you, yeah.
as individuals, you see.
You said glory of the whole. Those words that you use. So the whole coming back together. They both talk about the separation and coming back to be whole, but it kind of takes on a different spin.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep reading. I think that's best. Ron,
Yes.
please.
All my brothers are special. A Course in Miracles. Early in A Course in Miracles, emphasis is placed on our oneness with God. A couple of statements speak of our specialness in universal oneness, fully of God. The specialness of God's sons does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. All my brothers are special. If they are deprived of anything, their perception becomes distorted. When this occurs, the whole family of God or the sonship is impaired in its relationships. God loves every brother as he loves you, neither less nor more. He needs them all. He needs them all equally, and so do you. Inclusion speaks to our oneness with God and one another. God knows us and loves us as one, the Son of God. There is no exclusion in the oneness of God love. The rest of this chapter is provided to show how special exclusions plays out in our daily lives. All specialness has fear and hate as its foundation. In specialness, people are excluded and not accepted because they do not have what we want. This is special hate. People are accepted and loved because they have what we think we want. This is special love. Notice that special love is based on the exclusion of others.
Thank you. Discuss your comments. Do you see specialness related to fear and hate? That was the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Why?
I see it every day with wars going on
Yeah.
in our society where one group thinks they're special and therefore, you know, um, we're going to start a war because we're special and, you have what I want and I'm going to take it. And
Yeah.
crazy.
We're the special ones. We have the correct ideology. Okay. Or same premise operating at more of a micro level. I'm better than you because I'm prettier. Same philosophy, isn't it? Different applications.
Or smarter.
Okay. Or
Or
I have longer fingernails, or I have fairer
mhm,
skin, or I mean, I could go on, but it's the same relationship. They're unequal, they're of unlike quality in a particular way.
yeah.
And
And
that's what
mhm.
makes them special.
And Jesus said, I'm not special. You can do what I do and you can do more.
And yet we worship the dude and put him on a pedestal like he's the highest thing there is. But he is the highest thing along with me.
It
We
sounds
are
like
the glory. Go ahead.
in this very second paragraph of this section, the specialness of God's Son does not stem from exclusion, but from inclusion. So it sounds like the word started out with the same meaning as unity, that it came from inclusion. That's what it looks like. The
That's a
specialness, and
great
that's what you're
observation.
describing, is that in
Yes,
unity, it's saying the specialness of God's sons
it's
is for
because
everyone.
the whole thing
Yeah. All
is
my
what
brothers are
makes it
special. And
you.
then it becomes, if they are deprived, or we think we're deprived of
Right.
something, their
Their
perception
perception
becomes
becomes
distorted.
distorted.
And then
Right.
that's where the difference
Mm-hmm.
in the terminology starts.
Mm-hmm.
So let
Yeah.
me lead you into that
Mm-hmm.
next statement. I think I put it at the top of your agenda as a notable quote. It says,
Mm-hmm.
God loves every brother as he loves you, neither less nor more. But then it says, he needs them all equally, and so do you.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he say, and so do you?
Because we don't think that way.
Why,
Because in
why
order,
shouldn't we? Go
yeah.
ahead, Laverne.
No, and I was going to add to that, and so do you. Well, we need our brothers in order to for atonement, to for salvation. So
We
we
need it
can't
for
we can't get
salvation. Go
we
ahead.
can't get we can't get there without our brothers. We can't.
And
We
why is that? Why? Okay, I got
as
the atonement
Because
part of it and the soft benefits, but let's be practical. It has to do with synergistic effect. My power comes from my oneness. My weakness comes from my two-ness or three-ness or 8 billionness. Separation makes me lose power. Separation makes me lose knowledge. Separation impedes my seeing because I can't see much because I'm separate from the whole. So as we strengthen these relationships, our aggregate power increases. If we restore those separate relationships, our aggregate power gets returned to its original, all-encompassing glory. So God needs our brothers, but there's only one son. We need our brothers too. I can't get to heaven without you. You can't with me. Why is that?
Because we're all
There's
one.
one, right?
Yes. So that makes you see there are benefits from being one. There are enormous synergistic effect that was part of creation. Its unity is what gives it its full power, its full strength. That's what I got out of. He needs them all equally, and so do you. You are bereft without your brothers and sisters, if you want to. Comments? Am I confusing?
Mm-mm.
Well, I think the confusion lies in that we don't see it that way, that we don't think we need all our brothers equally.
And the truth is, you do.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
like an inextricable oneness. And to violate that is to violate the whole premise of creation.
Mhm.
The reason creation is undefiled or is unalterable is because where you going to get any different? Who's going to attack it? Who can attack it if it's all one? So I'm just trying to show you right there some very practical reasons. Oneness works better than two-ness. That's why. Let's read some more, okay?
Mm.
I think we're looking all right here. Nobody's outwardly disagreed with me, so I guess we're on the same page here.
Mm.
You did get that last paragraph. It said, special hate is when we don't accept others because they are not what we want. And special love is when we accept each other, accept people, certain people, because they are what we want. So those are both based on, if you're not what I want to disengage with you.
Mhm.
If you are what I want to engage with you to the exclusion of everyone else. The Course calls that love through separation. Just me and you, baby, and we'll fly off into the wild blue yonder and live happily ever after and leave all those other fools behind. We don't need them. Special love, right?
What most love songs are about.
Sounds like the ego to me.
Mm.
Sounds a little sick, yeah.
When you think about it from this point of view, you can see what's really going on, they're saying. Anyhow, we're up to D for what unity has to say, right?
Okay. Unity shares similar views about our quote unquote universal specialness and equality. The cry goes up, "This is foolish, sacrilegious, to put man beside Jesus Christ and claim that they are equals." The claim is not that humans in their present consciousness are equal with Jesus, but they must be equal with him before they will emerge from the sense of delusion in which they now wander.
Please keep going. Yeah.
Jesus recognized divine sonship and universal brotherhood. We confess Jesus as the Son of God, and by that confession, we acknowledge that all men are sons of God. The grace of God extends to all people, not alone to one sect or creed. All men are equal in favor with God. We do not abandon our friends and withdraw all interest in them, but we recognize their equality with ourselves in the supreme mind. And by that recognition, they are freed from a mental dependency with which we have unconsciously bound them. They begin to assert their inherent capacities. They step forth with the work that spirit within them has chosen.
Thank you. Comments on what unity says about specialness and about universal specialness? What are your thoughts?
My thought is until we realize that this world is not gonna work for everyone. Until we realize that there is no, everyone is the same, and that there's universal brotherhood, then it's not gonna work.
Look what the ego did to the teachings of Jesus. I mean, according to the record, the whole time he was here, he kept saying, "You are like me, and I am like you, and we are like the Father." And that was his message. And yet it must have gotten distorted because we even took the messenger and put him on a pedestal when all he kept trying to teach us was not to.
Right.
Do you see how cunning the ego is? And all the little tricks that will be used, tricks of distortion in that. I did want for me to comment on this last paragraph. It says, "We do not abandon our friends and withdraw all interest in them, but we recognize their equality with ourselves in the Supreme Mind. And by that recognition, they are freed from a mental dependency with which we have bound them." I keep thinking about if a brother asks you to do something foolish, do it. Because, here, let me just say my view and see if that's what you got out of it. If we would quit telling our brothers and sisters they were wrong, we would remove blocks from them that keep them from being all they are intended to be here. Isn't that what the last paragraph said? We put boundaries on them or attempt to, and we do it unconsciously by not letting them be themselves.
I
Comment.
think it's also saying that what we do unconsciously is we don't We do not abandon our friends and withdraw all interest in them, but we recognize their equality with ourselves. So we're not recognizing our equality with ourselves in the Supreme Mind. We're not recognizing it in ourselves, which is why we don't recognize it in our brothers.
Yes, it carries through. But just so I'm making this point, on a practical basis, we bind each other with you're not good enough, or even you're not bad enough. Whatever it takes, don't they have enough to do to be what God intended them to be?
But my point is, we're doing that because we don't know that we're good enough. So I think it really starts with myself. If I knew that I was good enough, I wouldn't put that on my brother that they're not good
Well,
enough.
well, I
I
see.
wouldn't put that bind on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's valid. Definitely. I see what you mean, D. Um, Ron, comments? Or
Just
did
listening
you
right now.
already know that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of already knew that.
Okay.
It makes sense.
It'd be a lot easier for your brothers to live their lives if you quit putting your judgments on them. I'm just saying from a practical point of view. And D added, the reason we unknowingly do that is that we also judge ourselves. And those are blocks to our being and following our guidance. I got to make sure I don't look foolish so they don't talk about me. And part of that defense, as Shakespeare would say, methinketh thou protesteth too much, is to judge them before they judge you. Stay on the offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And we play this little game that leads us both to damnation. Comments here. And when I asked Ron, did you already know that? Most people would say, no, I never thought about it that way. Joan, you got something to say, I know.
No, not really. I'm just listening.
Well, I love how you let me pick on you. I'm going to go to Sherilyn and Steve. What are your thoughts, dear?
Well, I am thinking it through, and it does make sense to me what we said, what you said, that we are all one, and we need to accept other people as all as part of us as well. And I agree with Laverne until we can do that, we're not going to find peace in this world
Yeah, because
among
you're kind of
people.
making enemies
Yeah,
simply by placing more burdens on someone you need to be your friend. But we do this, everyone does it, so it's normal. Laverne, any comments from you before we move on?
No, I'm good. Again, until we see each other as equal,
Isn't it
then
funny how it's usually just when we get together or get in the course zone that we even consciously get into issues like this, because otherwise it wouldn't have even occurred to me. That's normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we come here and tells us all the stuff we do that's not normal. Anyhow, when you finish, we'll go to Joan if you are.
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
you see where we're at?
Dreams of Specialness. A Course in Miracles.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
we're farther than.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where
Go
we
ahead,
are.
Ray.
Yeah.
Yes,
Where are you? What page?
74.
Did I skip a page?
No, you didn't.
No,
You're
no,
good.
you're
I
right.
did.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Right. So we're on 74 at the top. Please, Joni. Sorry about that.
Mhm. Okay. Am I in the right place?
Yes.
Dreams of
Okay.
specialness. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Dreams of Specialness, A Course in Miracles. The special ones are all asleep, surrounded by a world of loveliness they do not see. Freedom and peace and joy stand there beside the bier on which they sleep and call them to come forth and awaken from their dream of death. Yet they hear nothing. They are lost in dreams of specialness. They hate the call that would awaken them, and they curse God because he did not make their dream of being specially loved by God reality. If we are not aware of our belief in specialness and the cost associated with this belief, we continue to pursue a life of being special at the expense of experiencing universal love and acceptance. Separation is thus perpetuated. Mm.
So it's going on to the point it's unconscious.
Mhm.
But we do it all the time. That's the way we were taught or whatever for a long time.
Mm.
So I'm saying thank you for bringing this to my attention. Maybe it would help if I would really practice equality.
And to do that, we have to stop judging other people.
Yeah.
And not want, I have to not want to be different than anyone else.
Okay. So
And that's what I started saying in the beginning. I'm guilty of that.
yeah, we all
Wanting to be my individual, have my individuality and think that I'm different
We were
than.
taught that. This culture teaches that.
yes.
This is the culture that we live in that teaches individuality and differences. I mean, just look around.
Right.
It
So,
teaches it.
I
Yeah.
could say that I agree with what it's saying, that we're all equal, but I do believe we're all equal, and yet I want my individuality. So I
But
don't
say
believe it.
and do it, we're not yet in alignment.
Mhm.
And it's a big ask
Yeah.
to undo all of the teaching that we've had in this regard. And
It's
I
also me fooling myself, because if I hear those words, that we're all equal in God's, I would say, of
yes,
course we. I mean,
without question.
yeah.
Until I leave study group or oh, but this is different. Yeah, because we don't take that teaching into practice. And it is a difficult thing to practice, isn't it? At least
Yeah, I've got
we're
to
aware.
stop pointing fingers that others are doing it, because it's me doing it.
Yeah,
Mm.
you're right. You're right.
Mm.
Anything else here? Let's go to the fourth section called the unholy instant. Uh, we're up to Laverne, aren't we?
Yes.
Please.
The unholy instant, A Course in Miracles. The unholy instant is the starting point of separation, and egos giving rise to special relationship, housing the mad idea of separation in physical bodies. The instant that the mad idea of making our relationship with God unholy, special, seemed to be possible, all your relationships were made meaningless. In that unholy instant, time was born and bodies made to house the mad idea and give it the illusion of reality. And so it seemed to have a home that held together for a little while in time and vanished. The body is the ego's idol, the belief in sin made flesh and then projected outward. This produces what seems to be a wall of flesh around the mind, keeping it prisoner in a tiny spot of time and space, beholden unto death, and given but an instant in which to sigh and grieve and die in honor of its master. And this unholy instant seems to be life, an instant of despair, a tiny island of dry sand, bereft of water, and set uncertainty upon oblivion. The body is the means by which the ego tries to make the unholy relationship seem real. The unholy instant is the time of bodies, but the purpose here is sin, a belief in separation. It cannot be attained but in illusion. And so the illusion of a brother as body is quite in keeping with the purpose of unholiness.
Comments, my friends. This is is the course right about this? Are bodies simply part of the tiny mad idea? Part of the unholy instant where we thought we could have separate heads, and we applied all of our God-given efforts and strength to making it real. We even came up with some cool vehicles to have our separate selves appear in.
I think that is my downfall, that when I see you as a body, we aren't equal in bodies.
Okay.
So that is my downfall.
But it is not necessarily, we're into semantics, Miss Newman.
Okay.
It's not your downfall, it's your blessing. Because most of our brothers and sisters don't even recognize it. Okay, it's a giant stride to just be aware of it.
Yes.
To be willing to tackle the work, quote unquote, to undo it. And boy, I think in this first paragraph at the top of 75, what an apt description of life.
Which one? Which paragraph?
We view it. The top of page 75.
Okay.
And it says the body is the ego's idol.
Yes.
And then it says it produces what seems to be a wall of flesh around the mind, keeping it prisoner in a tiny spot of space and time, diminishing all that is into one little circumspect speck and keeping it a prisoner, beholden unto death, and given but an instant in which to sigh and grieve and die. And that seems to be what life is when your thinking is through a body. Talking about a lack of perspective. You take this great and glorious thing and reduce it to nothing, almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And think that's a good thing. What joy could there be from that on a relative scale? Take all of this, condense it into that, and say, now I'm happy. I mean, it's, yeah, go ahead.
I see the happiness as very temporary. It's not a long-lasting situation.
Yes. Yeah, and I saw somewhere before where there was a statement like that. But as fantastic as this sound, does it ring true?
Mm.
It's just that I never thought about it that way before. I've learned about another way of looking at things, that there is another thought system. So that's beneficial right there. We're back to Sherilyn. We've got a few minutes if you want to
Okay.
do what Unity says here.
All right. Unity, a fairly close but not exact parallel passage in Charles Fillmore's writings, expresses the idea that taking on material form, that is, bodies, would never have happened if we had not departed from the divine idea of our being, the departure that the Course terms the unholy instant. The Garden of Eden, or paradise of God, is in the ether, and we see the fall of man antedated the formation of this planet as we behold it geologically. Jesus recognized this when he said, "And now, Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was." We are by birth a spiritual race, and we should never have known matter or material conditions if we had followed the leadings of our higher consciousness.
What do you want to say? What's the ether?
The space around us all,
You sure?
or within us,
Huh?
or within us.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
What
What is the
is
ether?
ether?
Ether.
You know, I lost my page here, so forgive me. We were on.
75.
75 at the
Thank
bottom.
you. I'm still on one. Do you see the word ether on 75?
Yes, it's here somewhere because I read it.
It's in the Garden of Eden, right?
Eden, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Have you ever
paradise of
wondered
God
Oh, the
about,
Garden of Eden
is in the
is the
ether.
ether. It's in the ether.
you know,
It's
The
the
space.
whole.
Siri, what does ether mean? Oh, crap. She's not helping me out.
What did she say?
A pleasant smelling. This is not a good evening here.
Why? Because Siri don't know ether.
Yeah, she said, help. Oh, crap. Method not working. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Ether. Okay. Let me tell you what Unity says about
Thank
it
you.
from Fillmore. It says, the spiritual substance in which we live, move, and have our being, and out of which can be made whatever we desire. So Charles Fillmore said that we have the power to make ideas visible things, which then create the rim of separation or the rim of ethers.
So quantum physics would call that the quantum or unified field that we all live in.
Probably.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It would be concepts like superposition, where everything is in every position until you choose, and then it'll be where you want it. It's spoken of another way called particle wave theory.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not choosing, it's a wave in all positions. when you choose, the wave collapses into a particle in a specific place. So you have everything. You get what you want from selecting from the menu. Our real environment is in ether, described as Laverne described it from Unity, right, Laverne?
Mm-hmm.
You were reading from what, that definition?
TruthUnity.net. That definition on Truth Unity.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I'm reading from TruthUnity.net.
TruthUnity.net. Thank
Right.
you.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of resources here to help us
Yeah.
out. Questions,
Yeah.
comments. We're going to close here for tonight and start up next time with specialness as a strategy of the ego. You see that on 76. But I liked the discussion tonight, even though it wasn't as heavy as divine mind and separate or split mind. Remember, we've covered that material. Comments from you as we close tonight?
Was great as usual.
Yes, very good.
Well, hey, I'm going to take a win on that and say thank you for being here and thanks for your participation. And I'm just very happy to be in a circle like this and get to talk about stuff that is meaningful to me, and I have an outlet to discuss it with people and see that I'm not alone, because a lot of people think I'm crazy as a loon.
Well, I think in regards to unity and the Course in Miracles, the perspective is predominantly the same. It's just the way that it's presented. It's the words that are used to present the concepts and the ideas.
I agree. Yeah.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And just a nuance along that line, if you look at the Fillmore writings and the early Unity writers, they go back 100 years or something like that, where the language and presentation in A Course in Miracles is 20th century, right? 1975, 76.
Right.
So just the styles also are a little bit different. But in any event, I think they both offer some valuable information. And because we're both course students and Unity students, you see, each side and hearing their perspective is quite meaningful. So we will continue with the Unity and the Course in Miracles book. Next week, we're in our Oracle text reading again, but I don't think you'll be disappointed, okay?
Never.
I'll look forward to talking with you again soon, my friends, okay?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
Namaste.
Have a blessed week,
I love
everybody.
your flowers, Dee. They're beautiful.
Thank you all. Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.